February 28th. No, that's not right. Tuesday, March the 5th, and I'm going to call this regularly scheduled city council meeting to order. Would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Very hard to think seriously with this thing around my neck. No? No, we do not. Would the city secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell,
Here.
Ellison,
Present.
Shield,
Here.
Villalobos,
Here.
Coach,
Here.
Tenorio.
Present.
All right, 6 members present. We have a quorum. At this time, I'd like to bring up approval of the minutes.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Tenorio.
there's a couple of changes that I'd like to add to the minutes
Okay.
of February the 19th. Under item number 24, I'd like to have added that I make note that this was not in reference to any individual member, but it needs to be a discussion at budget time.
Okay.
And then there's one more change that I'd like to be brought forward. Let me get to it. It's the ordinance in regards to the hometown Kyle issue that we had. It is not stated in the minutes that we removed 3 of the 7 variances.
Okay.
So I'd like to motion to approve the minutes with those changes.
All right. All right, it's been motioned by Councilmember Tenorio that we approve the minutes for February 19th and February 23rd. It's been seconded by Councilmember Shield. Councilmember Tenorio has noted 2 corrections she'd like to have added, and that was included in her motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next up, citizen comments period. At this time, we welcome anyone.
Only one. We have the minutes from February the 23rd.
I'm sorry, I read both minutes out. Did you have more corrections?
I had a correction to the 23rd minute as well.
You can go ahead and
I'd like to
make the
amend
motion
that
to amend it.
motion
Sure.
to make a correction to the 23rd minutes. And it will be under, well, there's only one item, but we'd like to include that the council did note that there would be a location for polling location on the east side located at the school board, school district offices, as well as the west side, which would be the city hall. And those are the only corrections I have for that one.
Okay, did we formalize what we were going to do at that meeting, or did we just express our desire?
Specifically asked where those locations were going to be because we wanted to make sure. I know that I specifically asked and then you specifically asked
Right.
as well to verify where those 2 locations were going to be.
Okay, so can you just clarify what you're recommending we change in the minutes exactly?
Yes. On the end, sorry.
It's okay.
Where it ends with the 2 separate machines, council asked specifically where polling locations would be. One would be included on the east side of the Hayes CISD admin building. One would be at the west side located at City Hall.
Okay. So that was a motion to amend the item. I guess, do we need to reconsider it, or can we just amend it at that point?
Yeah, could you describe the update?
She just wants to add a sentence to
The minutes,
the
Just
minutes.
approve the minutes with that addition.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that was a motion. Is there a second? All right, it's been motioned by Councilmember Tenorio. It's been seconded by Councilmember Shield that we approve the minutes for February 23rd with the amendment as stated. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, citizen comments period. At this time, we welcome anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item to do so. We do ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes to address the mayor and council, and that you fill out a citizen comments form, and you can submit that either to myself or the city secretary. I do not have any forms currently that I see, but is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close citizen comments period. It's now closed. Next up, agenda item number 3, consider impossible action on development agreement with Project Magic Mint. I have some bad and good news. The bad news is we're going to postpone this for 1 meeting. The good news is it's for good reason. So, I don't know, can we state what that reason is, or do we need to?
I think so. Is Diana here? Can we share it?
You can just nod your head and I'll say it so you don't have to, or no? Okay, so they wanted to bring in more people to be present when we make the announcement. So, to include potentially some very long flights. So we're very thankful for their desire to be here with us. So, worthwhile postponement. Next up, agenda item number 4, road projects update. Mr. Barbo.
We're almost done.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barber, City Engineer.
That's jinxing it.
Don't like you, Alex.
I did want to tell you about a couple of other projects that we're working on before I get into our current road projects. But Old Stagecoach Road, as some of you know, has been under construction for the last 4 to 5 months. We've been putting in a wastewater line and a reclaimed water line in there. We're hoping to have that road open by this week. So there still may be a few items, but we've talked to the contractor and asked him to try to get it open by before the weekend. The other project I want to let you know about is Kyle Crossing. That's a reconstruction project that goes from Kohler's Crossing up to Vista Ridge, and it's right behind Evo's. Excuse me. We're advertising that project this week, and we're hoping to open bids April 10th, so we can get started on that project and get it rebuilt. Let me jump into the Marketplace project. That's from Burleson Street to the IH-35 frontage road. Roughly 95% complete on that project. We did a walkthrough yesterday on that project. There's a few items that remain to be done, and there's some stuff that we added on to the project that we need to complete, and we are hoping to have all of that minor stuff completed before the end of the month. One of the other things I wanted to mention, that we were asked to do some additional drainage work on the I-35 frontage road by TxDOT, and that, including all these additional changes, we're going to have to come back to council probably on next council meeting with additional funding for a change order. We've exceeded our 5% contingency with that extra work that we had to do. So we'll bring that back to you at the next council meeting.
I assume you're implying that TxDOT's not also handing out money for the
No, sir.
request that they're making to upgrade their frontage road.
No, sir. It was some drainage work we had to do that they wanted us to do, so we went ahead and added to the contract.
Thank you.
What is
Leon?
our estimation for opening of that road? Do we have one?
We're hoping by the end of the month, before the end of the month.
What little things still need to be done on that?
Be happy to tell you what those are. There's a little bit of sidewalk at the by the roundabout. There's some concrete riprap we needed to add. As a result of the walkthrough, we decided we needed to add some more concrete wrap around the one of the drainage structures. There's a barricade that we need to install at a driveway that we added there. There's a little bit of pedestrian railing that we need to add. The striping needs to be redone at the I-35 frontage road. Apparently, TxDOT didn't like our design, so we're going to have to modify that. So we'll have to come back and restripe a piece of it. And at the other end, by the roundabout, there's another section we need to add some more striping. We also need safety lighting at I-35. We got a better price from the contractor working on Burleson Street, so we asked them to do that installation of that safety light. So they also had the light pole itself, so we went with them as the contractor to install that safety light there at I-35. And we also have to finish out the raised median at the roundabout with some concrete stone.
And how are we going to transfer the traffic from turning onto Burleson to change it to having them turn onto Marketplace? How are we going to work that, and what's the timeline for that?
We think that there's going to be about a 2 or 3 week delay before we were able to close the existing Burleson Street entrance there off I-35. M.A. Smith is a contractor on Burleson. They have to get over there and do some improvements to close off that crossing. They may put barricades up. They may put the curbing there. We're not sure what their plan is. They also have to do utility work in there. So their utility crew right now is working on right there by the church on Burleson. Mm-hmm. And so once that crew gets through there, we're hoping that they move over to that section of Burleson. So we're going to see about a 2 or 3 week delay, we think, in closing off that section of roadway, so we can convince.
So we'll have both of them open?
Yes,
at one point
for a short
in
while
time?
we'll have both of them open.
Okay, all right.
One thing we do want to make sure we do is put plenty of the message boards out there to let people know it's coming too.
Please, thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Leon.
Okay. Burleson Street, again, M.A. Smith is a contractor on that one. Utility crews are still working between St. Anthony's and Tenorio. They're scheduled to complete that in March, hopefully by the end of the month. Miller to Center Street, that's got 2 layers of pavement on it right now. We're waiting for the 3rd layer of pavement. But if you've noticed, they're also doing some concrete work in there. They've got some sidewalks that they're trying to wrap up in there. They've got some sidewalk and 1 driveway left that they need to build in there. The 3rd pavement layer will be scheduled after some issues are resolved with the asphalt. There were some issues with densities, and so we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with the densities and how we're going to figure those out and get those fixed. Center Street to Lockhart, the 1st layer of mix was placed. They're working on curb and gutter and some driveways in there also. The conduit that I'd mentioned at the previous meeting has been installed. They haven't done the wiring yet, but they're still working on that. The 2nd layer is going to be scheduled after the curb and gutter has all been installed. They've been, again, delayed by wet weather and cold weather. So we plan to have both of those blocks opened to the public end of March. That's our goal.
End of March.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the detour that we'd set up for Burleson when we moved them off of Burleson Street. We've been working with the Highway Department on that particular issue where Rebel and Silverado, thank you, intersect. We were able to talk to the traffic engineer with TxDOT, and we've come up with a couple of solutions to help with that particular situation. Next council meeting, I'll be bringing you 2 ordinances. One ordinance will be to lower the speed limit from 55 to 50 along that section from Gregg back to 2770. I think it's at section of it is at 55 right now, so we'll get that lowered to 50. We were kind of hoping 45, but the 85th percentile was about 54, 55. They can lower it about 5 miles an hour, and that's why we had landed at 50 miles an hour. So we'll slow the traffic through that section of roadway. The other ordinance I'll be bringing back to you is a multi-way stop. As you know, my biggest concern was at night, there's not a whole lot of lights out there, so they're going to be putting 3-way stop. It's going to be a multi-way stop, but they're going to have the flashing red beacons on those stop signs. So hopefully that'll give people advance notice that there is a stop sign there. So they're telling me 3 to 5 weeks before they can get those installed. Again, I'll be bringing those ordinances to you, one for the reduction of the speed limit and the other one for the installation of the multi-way stop.
Is that stop sign going to be permanent, or is that going to be temporary while the construction is going on and the detour is created?
We plan to leave it there. One of my questions I asked TxDOT was when they did their speed studies and their traffic studies, we know we had traffic detoured from Burleson, so what impact did that have on did that skew their numbers? And they said, yeah, it probably did, but they felt very comfortable that intersection not only meets warrants for stop signs, but also for traffic signals. So that at the point where we take traffic put traffic back on Burleson, they're going to come back and look at it one more time, but I think it's going to meet warrants for a traffic signal at that point in time. So that'll be coming later.
Okay.
Let's see. That's on Burleson. On Lehman, as you know, we delayed the start of work on that project. The notice to proceed was issued for February 25th of 2019. I'd mentioned that Centerpoint Gas had a line in the Lake Kyle that they were supposed to have abandoned. That line still is going to be left there, but they need to lower it. They haven't started on that yet. And then they're supposed to start next week. We'll see if they show up out there to lower that line for us. Again, the delay was caused by weather. On the positive side, I'd mentioned that PEC had a pole at 150 in Lehman that's been moved. The communication lines have been pulled off, so we're ready to go on that. The only problem is the subcontractor pulled off. They promised to come back mid-March to start the bore underneath 150 so we can get that project started off. The contractor, though, is currently trenching for a wastewater line that we have in that area, so he's working on that 30-inch wastewater line that we're putting in there. And he's also working on preparing for installing the box culverts that are going to go at that low water crossing. So that's where we are on that project.
Is that it?
Thank you. Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Leon.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, consent agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to remove any items? Councilor Tenorio.
Number 9.
Number 9.
6.
Number 9 and number 6, okay. 8 and 8. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Tenorio.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 5, item number 7, item number 10, And item number 11.
All right, it's been motioned by Councilmember Tenorio. It's been seconded by Councilmember Villalobos that we approve consent agenda items number 5, 7, 10, and 11. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Agenda item number 6, authorize award and execution of a contract and purchase order to Pyro Shows of Texas, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $30,000 for the 2019 July 4th fireworks show. I don't remember who pulled
I
which
did.
one. Councilmember Shield.
Hello, Miss Carrie. Let's see. So I just wanted to pull this to give Carrie an opportunity to let us know when it's going to happen and what the plans are, and kind of let everybody know about the our 4th of July fireworks show.
You just said it right there. For the record, my name's Kerry Urbanowitz, Director of Parks and Recreation. As Councilmember Shields said, the 4th of July fireworks show will be on the 4th of July. It will be at the same location that we've had in the past. Well, we haven't got the contract with them yet, but there's no reason why we're not going to do it at the golf course once again. The show last year was a contracted 16-minute show that we stretched to 30 minutes. And we're going to add 33% more shells to this year's show. So if you enjoyed last year, you're going to really get a bang out of this year's show.
Pun intended.
Fun wasn't
Well
good.
done, well stated.
So it should be a 30-minute show with not any moments where there's not at least 1 or 2 shells up in the air.
Okay.
I don't know anybody outside of Austin, San Antonio, or Houston, Dallas. I don't know any town of our size doing a show nothing even close to this.
Okay. Well then, Mayor, I would like to approve item number 6, please.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned by Councilmember Shield. It's been seconded by Councilmember Tenorio that we approve agenda item number 6. Is there any further discussion?
Carrie, this is the best fireworks show in Hays County, hands down, so good job on that.
Thank you very much. It's a great company, and we will have RFP out at the end of this calendar year for the next 3 years. So I'm hoping that they submit a proposal for the next 3 years, because they're a
It's
great
one of
company.
the best
to
in the
work with.
region. I mean,
Yep.
it really is. It's
Tell your
awesome.
friends, and let's
We
tell all
always
the
do.
local restaurants to stock up, because I think the last few years, Chick-fil-A and Whataburger's run out of buns.
Yeah.
If I can add to the puns, in terms of bang.
This is a fun night. Everybody's wearing beads. I love it. It's great.
In terms of bang for our buck, I feel like this is one of our best events as well, because what was it last year? Some 25,000 people
Yes.
watched our fireworks
Even in the
show.
rain.
Even in the
The
in
rain.
the-
Even in that
with all
rain
the
cloud.
foggy.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
That
it was kind of
fantastic.
cool. But we're very proud of our fireworks show, and thank you for helping us to
And Plum
maintain
Creek
that.
Golf Course is extremely proud of it as well. They sell out their golf tournament, and they fill up the park there really well. It's a great event.
Wonderful. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries 6-0. Next up.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8, authorize execution of a professional services agreement with Catalyst Commercial for total consulting fees in the amount of $15,150 plus reimbursable expenses at 115% of actual costs to provide services related to recruitment of targeted retail, hospitality, entertainment, and destination recreation in the city of Kyle for the period March 5th, 2019 through September 30th, 2019. This is Ms. Torres' item, I believe. Councilmember Tenorio pulled this.
I pulled that one.
I'm going to get it wrong every
all
time. All right. Councilmember Ellison.
You were late. You're still getting your bearings.
I am. You're right. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana, for coming up. I just wanted to see if you could give us a little bit of a background on item number 8. You did a great job in providing us some information of the implementation, about 8 steps, I believe it was. But if you could just give us a highlight and overview of what this is, a little bit of background on why we're doing this, and some other statistics that I'm sure we'll enjoy to hear.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Diana Torres, Economic Development Director for the record. So this is the company that we've been working with for retail recruitment and implementation for a number of years now. This year, we actually have restructured the contract to refocus and kind of really drill down our focus to our target market. Before, we were really doing a shotgun approach, going after recruitment of any and all retail. We feel like we kind of have a good handle on retail right now, and retail in general is kind of rolling along. So our focus with our contract and the consultant is really identifying those destination retail and entertainment and focused on quality, restaurants, and those three targets are what we really are trying to identify. So hotels with quality in mind, destination, and restaurants. So in the new term that you might start hearing is retailtainment. So that's the new buzzword that is starting to fly around. Now, I kind of feel like I do need to mention, because we hear a lot of comments about the city's bringing too much of this or too much of that. Now, that does not mean that we can stop certain kind of retail from coming into the city. With that being said, that does not mean that we are recruiting them. So there are certain things that are coming to town that we can't stop, but that does not mean that we are recruiting them. But the things that we are focused on, again, are the destination retail and entertainment and restaurants with quality in mind. So that's what this contract is focused on. The consultant projects that they are focused on for the year, you got the copy of their contract in your packet, and it is very specific what their tasks are for the year. And we actually have some samples of their work in the PowerPoint here tonight that you can see if we can get it up on the board here. So for the ICSC, Recon, and some of the conferences that we go to, they do a whole lot of research and marketing work for us as far as our materials go. And there's no way that the two of us could put this kind of quality work together, especially in the amount of time that they put into it for us. And this comes in glossies, they print it for us, and on USBs that we hand out. So we sit down and we have it in an electronic format and we leave it with them in USBs. They also take the time to identify the retailers that we actually meet the criteria, that Kyle would meet the criteria for them to come here. And they set the meetings with them so that we don't have to make those phone calls and those emails and those things. We just show up whenever they have the meeting set. And if we have, maybe we have a conflict, there's two meetings happening at once, they will represent us at one meeting and we'll go to the other. So each year they identify our primary trade area as far as retail is concerned. So it's very industry specific for retail and entertainment. And each year they update this kind of information for us. You can go on to the next slide. This is the map that would identify the households as far as retail goes and who would actually shop in our primary trade area. They are actually updating this map for us right now, and they work closely with our GIS. And they actually came into town, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Scott, and sat down with us in Scott's office, and we literally drew with a marker on a map, updating all the new infrastructure and all the new neighborhoods and everything that's going on, and then got with our GIS person, Steve, after that to make sure that all their information is accurate and up to date, and they're updating this map as we speak. You can go on to the next. This is another form of a brochure that they use, but it's just in the one-page format that they'll use when they're working with their retail brokers for the retail market, and it's just the one-page swag for them. The next, so this is the one that's really important for us to have, and they go through Kyle and they identify every major property that's in Kyle, and they put together this piece for us, and they identify every single one. And the last one that they did, we had 26 pages, and it's all the contact information and It identifies every single property. You can kind of just flip through it as I'm talking. And so this is identified as a book. So tonight it doesn't really look like that. You can keep going in as I talk. Go ahead and keep flipping. And so you'll see that every single property that may be identified as a retail property in Kyle would be identified in this book. So there's more than you would actually think that may be available in Kyle. Some of them may be further along and better ready to go, and better suited for certain retailers and certain hotels and certain properties than others. But they are identified, and we could speak to those as we need to. So this is the package that they put together for our conferences, and we speak to these, and we can follow up with the real estate brokers for the retailers as we need to. This is very time intensive and would cost us a whole lot of money if we just asked a marketing or a real estate person to do this for us. So this in and of itself is very valuable to us. They actually sit down with us and help us re-identify targets each year. They will sit down and facilitate the face-to-face meetings with the retailers, with property owners, and with retail prospects. They will maintain a communication not only with us, but with developers throughout the year. So, for example, there are developers throughout the community that they're maintaining communication with without us really having to tell them, you need to call this person. They're maintaining that communication throughout the year, and then they're letting us know what that communication has been. They are, on occasion, having to help us field inquiries where people will come in and say, you know what, we're kind of interested in this property, but we're not really sure what the highest and best use may be. And so we'll say, hey, you know what, we think you should probably talk to our retail consultant and see what they feel like it should kind of look and feel like. And so they will kind of work with them for a while without charging them. They will also help us with, we get prospects in town that may be a retail user that I wish I could tell you the latest one that I had, but due to confidentiality, I can't. They came in and they didn't have the best demographic information. And so I said, you know what, let me call our person and get you the best demographic information as of the latest information we have. And they ran the reports for us on the fly and got it to them. So that's the kind of useful information and help that they provide to us. We have monthly conference calls with them. So we are up to date on what they're working on, and we keep them up to date with what's happening here, what's new, anything that has become a vacancy or anything that has been filled. Annually, we sit down and we reassess and we update our strategy. And then we update our transportation and housing and property maps. So this has become a very valuable relationship that we've had with them. And we really value this contract.
Thank you, Diana. Appreciate that overview. And it's currently about a 6-month contract, and then
Right.
it could be renewed from that point on. And
Yeah. And with the properties and projects like Six Creeks coming on, with their, view of, the destination projects coming in and some of those things that we're really trying to strive for, that's what we're really trying to help them really go after. And with the branding of the pie capital of Texas, that's some of the things that we're really kind of trying to get them to focus on.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to keep a close eye on this. This is, I know we probably all heard from citizens about getting certain, more restaurants and things
Right.
like that. So
Yep.
I appreciate this effort. You and Victoria, I want to give you all a shout out. Y'all do a lot of work, but it's just the two of you all. So hopefully this will be a great resource for you all. I had no further questions.
No idea. Does anybody mind if I go
Just because of what it states here, and I just want to get that, get it clarified. It says the reimbursable expenses at 115%.
They actually have never, ever charged us for any travel,
Okay.
ever.
And I
Not
understand.
of 0%. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's in there, but they've never charged us for any travel.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Tenori.
I'd like to say that this has been an incredible partnership for you. It's been a great tool. I heard their very first presentation I think it was like 4.5 years ago when they first came here and did an actual presentation. And I think that the money has been well worth spent, and I wish them well, and I wish you well as you continue to help develop this community and get us to where we need to be. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned by Councilmember Tenorio, it's been seconded by Councilmember Ellison that we approve agenda item number 8, is that right? Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
I pulled 9.
Next up, agenda item number 9, an ordinance amending chapter 53 of the city of Kyle, Texas for the purpose of rezoning approximately 47.062 acres of land from retail services to PUD for the property located at the 800 block of Rebel Drive. Councilmember Tenorio pulled this item.
The only reason that I pulled it was when I was reading the paperwork, and please tell me I missed it. The contracts were the same thing that we had seen the very first time, and I didn't make note of the variance changes that were pulled. Is that part of the document, or is that just not in there? There were 7 variances.
Correct.
And they were part of that ordinance. And I know that we pulled 3 because the landowners said that they would pull them. It wasn't us. But I wanted to make sure that that was noted prior to us voting on it. Because I remember when we
Okay.
made the actual amendment, or when we made the motion for
Right.
that, we specifically stated that these 3 items would not be voted on, would not be included in that ordinance, and I didn't see any changes when it came back for the second reading. So I wanted to make sure that we were actually approving the ordinance that we voted on and not the original ordinance. Was that clear?
Yeah.
Do I make those between? I didn't, I thought you did. Then they can state the same thing that we did 2 weeks ago? I'm sorry, I did not make those changes. I thought the city secretary's office would do that from the record, so
Well,
I
and that was
didn't make
another
those
issue
before
I had
tonight.
too, was because in the minutes, it didn't even talk about it as well. So I want to make sure that we're voting on the ordinance that we proposed the first time, which was not noted in the minutes. And I want to make sure that we're voting on the correct, I mean, I'm okay with the ordinance, I just want to make sure we're voting on the correct ordinance and which one we're voting on, because it's not the one that's in the packet.
Do you have the numbers?
I can't even recall.
Councilmember Shields got it. She'll
Okay.
let her make the motion.
So, number 1 was yes, number 2 was, one of the ones, it was 2, 3, and 5 that were pulled.
Okay, do you want to make that motion?
Okay, so I would like to make a motion, for item number 7,
9.
9.
sorry. Looking at the number right there.
Yeah, that's okay.
An ordinance amending chapter 53 of the city of Kyle, Texas for the purpose of rezoning approximately 47.062 acres of land from Retail Services District RS to Planned Unit Development PUD for property located within the 800 block of Rebel Drive, north of Red Club Park in Hayes County, Texas, with, taking out, and I forget what section it was.
Just the amendments. You can just say the amendments.
Pulling item number 2, 3, and 5 of those, due to the density, variances, pulling those through.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Hang on, we got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I would
Do
like
we need
to-
to restate that? Okay. It fails for lack of a second. We'll get you to do it again in just a second. Go ahead.
So in the draft minutes, it has approval of variances 1, 4, 6, and 7, and denial of variances 2, 3, and 5.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And that's what's in the minutes? Okay.
All right. So, but the item before us needs to be motioned with the same amendments taken out again. Same motion, not just a motion to approve. All right, you can just give the general verbiage again. You don't have to read the whole thing out, Tracy.
Okay, so approving item number 9 with the amendment of taking out items number 2, 3, and 5 for the variances.
Okay. That's the motion. Is there a second? Okay, it's been motioned by Councilmember Shields, it's been seconded by Councilmember Villalobos that we approve agenda item number 9 and strike amendments number 2, 3, and 5.
I'd like to add that I'd like to make sure that the city secretary listens to the video to verify that that was correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Very good catch, Councilmember Tenorio. Thank you for that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next up, agenda item number 10. Is that right? An ordinance amending Chapter 53 of the City of Kyle, Texas for the purpose of rezoning approximately 1.53 acres of land from single-family residential R1 to community commercial CC for property located at 1206 North Burleson Street in Hays County, Texas.
Are we skipping 12?
Yeah, nobody told us on
Oh, that was it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just reading for fun. No big deal.
Hello?
That was the most confusing. I've never had 3 people pull different items simultaneously. I didn't have normally I do it in my notepads. All right, next up, agenda item number 12. First reading, approve an ordinance amending the city's approved budget for fiscal year 2018-19 by increasing the total appropriations for expenditures in the general fund by $21,074.90 and decreasing the fund balance in the general fund by the same amount in order to provide funding for a special called election to be held on May 4th, 2019 for City Council Place 3, position vacancy due to resignation. Mr. Mohit.
Mayor Pro Tem, council members, for the record, I'm Pervez Mohit, City's Director of Finance. On February 19th, when City Council approved the ordinance ordering the special election for Place 3, Council also directed staff to prepare and bring back a budget amendment to provide funding for the cost of the special election. The item before you, if approved by Council, will amend fiscal year 2019's budget by $21,074.90. This budget amendment will increase total appropriations for expenditures in the city's general fund by the same amount and decrease the fund balance by $21,074.90. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
We'll do this again if we have a runoff, correct?
Yes, this only covers
Just
the
the first.
special election, yes,
Okay.
on May 4th.
Motion to approve?
Okay, it's been motioned by Councilmember Tenorio. It's been seconded by Councilmember Villalobos that we approve agenda item number 12. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Next up, agenda item number 13, consider agreement with Robert E. Schlort for credit issued towards adjacent lane mile fee related to land donation to the intersection improvement at Goforth Bunton Creek Road. Mr. Earp.
Mayor, council, for the record, James Earp, Assistant City Manager. What you have before you is a letter agreement. There's a proposed development called Casita Ranch, which is on the south part of that intersection of Bunton and Goforth, where they split there by the PEC substation. As a part of their development, they need to do infrastructure improvements. They need to do an intersection improvement there. They're designing a roundabout for that intersection primarily because of the geography and the geometry of the intersection portions. And they need additional right-of-way from the north property owner, which is Mr. Schlort. Mr. Schlort has agreed to donate that. He's asked for a future credit against his ALM fee for whenever he develops his property, which is in line with the way that we would typically treat his property if he were doing this himself. But since he's not in the development process at the moment, we asked that the council would just authorize a letter agreement, so that would be on record, and then he'll know that he has that credit waiting for him. We tied the value to the
existing value of the land that we've been procuring in that area for the Button Creek Interceptor, so we have an idea of what the land was worth, and that's where the dollar amount comes from.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Earp?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Tenorio?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned by Councilmember Tenorio. It's been seconded by Councilmember Ellison. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries 6-0. Next up, agenda item number 14, discussion regarding council compensation committee. As the council is well aware, in the November election, the voters authorized a change to section 3.09 of the city charter, which lays out a very specific process for the council to undergo once every 3 years. That process needs to coincide with our budgeting process as well. And so with that, I wanted to request that the council would bring back each a nominee for the council compensation committee to be established at the next meeting. And at the next meeting, we can discuss that timeline, or if you'd like to discuss it a little bit more now, I'm perfectly happy to take your feedback now or later, whichever way you prefer. We have an ordinance that was drafted and approved by council in 2015 for the way that committees operate. There's a little bit of a gray area. I think it's probably, according to our attorney, kind of up to our discretion as to whether or not we wish to follow that ordinance, because the ordinance is really for ad hoc committees, which this actually is by all definitions an ad hoc committee, but it is mandated in our city charter to create it, and therefore, if we wanted to establish a separate ordinance with separate guidelines, it would be within our right to do so. I don't personally see it. I think it's a perfectly legitimate ordinance. It does say that the council must approve all the nominees. So we don't individually appoint, we individually nominate, and then the entire body approves, which I think would be probably an acceptable process for us to undergo. Do y'all have any questions so far?
I have a recommendation.
Councilor Tenorio.
I'd like to recommend that we all take some time to think about what we're looking at. Send all of our ideas to our city secretary, have her send it to all of us in a note format so that we can kind of start thinking about it.
You mean about having a...
Not just the nominees, but also the processes that we're looking at setting up together.
Okay.
And I think that way we can come back ready to have an open discussion at our next meeting.
Well, that's definitely the plan, is to have an open discussion
Yes.
at the next meeting. I'm just priming us for it.
No, I
but-
just wanted to give us an opportunity
Sure.
to start sharing ideas, and since we can't share them, individually, but we can share them through Scott or through Jennifer,
Sure.
that might give us an opportunity to start getting an idea of what we're all thinking.
Right, okay, that's fair. The timeline is relevant because I think the plan, and Mr. Sellers is going to speak to this on the next item, but the plan for our first budget retreat is tentatively scheduled towards the end of May, which is a little bit more delayed than in the past, but it's, from the timeline standpoint, the charter says that we have to create the committee, we have to have 2 public hearings, so they have to have time to come back, make whatever the recommendation is, then we have to have 2 public hearings, and we have to adopt whatever we're going to adopt by ordinance. So there's a long process, and we need to have all of that done, in my opinion, by the time Mr. Sellers prepares his initial budget. So that's the reason for putting it in now, establishing the committee at our next meeting, and then the main thing that we'll need to do is we can discuss whatever processes we want to have, but the one thing is we need to tell the committee when to come back with their recommendation. And it's going to be my recommendation, so y'all can be thinking about it, to say that they would need to come back basically 2 meetings later, which is about a 1-month time frame. So that would have us establishing the committee at the second meeting in March, and then they would come back the second meeting in April with their recommendation, which would give us the first meeting in May and the second meeting in May to hold any public hearings, and then also concurrently in the second meeting, if there's action to be taken, we would take action then, and then the council budget workshop would be probably the following Saturday. So it works, but it's
Tight.
As with all things, it seems like it's a little bit tight. And I apologize, had I really considered the timeline, I probably should have brought it forward at the last meeting, but I think we still have plenty of time. So is there any questions or further discussion?
Yeah, I was curious, what are some of the things we should be considering besides obviously who we're going to recommend? But I guess, do we need to think of how often we want the committee to meet, like where they'll meet? What do we need to really be thinking about, I guess, between now and the next meeting, besides obviously who our candidate will be? Anybody have any ideas?
I would think that we would want to set a timeline, start thinking of the timeline.
Mhm.
We need to start thinking about what the parameters, like, we need to come up with some ideas, like some studies for them to look at, to review. Like, when I get home, I'll be Googling, you know, what the salary scales for the different cities are, so we can have information to give them and they can start doing research. I mean, that's what I'd like to be able to provide whatever committee member is. I'd like to make sure that they have access to the right information, or to information and how to find it. That would be what I would look for. But I think that's what's very nice about having the council, is we're all looking at different aspects. Like, for me, it's always financial because that's my background. And I think that's what'll make this committee even better, is that we'll all be looking at different aspects.
Okay.
I mean, just overall structure, purpose, and scope. I mean, we gotta really drill that down so that we can make sure they have the appropriate guidance to understand what those things are for them as a committee. So, again, I think that would allude to just bringing in other examples so we can kind of draw that structure, purpose, and scope for them. It's frustrating when you don't have a whole lot of guidance. If this is something new, they're gonna need at least some direction and guidance so they understand how they're gonna present it, and what items they're gonna be looking for, and what our overall goal is.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think we should be somewhat considerate of that we are creating this committee to do their due diligence, do their research. And, I mean, I think we're creating the committee in some parts because we want individuals to come up with whatever that criteria is beyond our influence in many ways. So I don't think it would be very beneficial for us to influence them too much. I think we do need to provide a scope and what we want them to do and a time frame on when we need it done. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to hear what they have to say and what they bring to us, and we'll decide as a body on that recommendation. I'm curious to hear everybody else's ideas, I guess, over the course as we communicate through email, so.
Yeah, I think that it's certainly within our purview to potentially establish something along the lines of staff support, you know, to maybe designate the city secretary as a liaison to help them with Open Meetings Act, to help them with their scheduling, to help provide any information that they would request. They could probably get that through the city secretary. There is kind of a balance between being too granular and telling them exactly how to go about arriving at a decision, and then also potentially there's also merits to kind of stepping back and allowing them to process it independently. I think this council probably agrees with both those things, and so the idea is to think it through, just like Councilmember Tenorio said, and try to provide a clear direction, and then also at the same time give them a lot of latitude to process that independently. And I think we can arrive at that. And I think it's also a good recommendation for us to be thinking about that over the next 2 weeks. So I'm very grateful for the work we did on Section 3.09, because it is you know, as I was getting ready to put this forward, I realized that a lot of the groundwork is laid out right there in that text. It's very succinct and it's very clear as to what that process needs to be, so that it takes pressure off of us, and we know that you know, the citizens of Kyle have had a look at that just recently, so that they're in agreement with that process. Anything else? There's no action to be taken on this item. All right, next up, city manager's report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Scott Sellers for the record. Several items. You see a reminder for Spola Drainage Master Plan. That is this Saturday, 9 a.m. So if you don't have that on your schedules, I hope you can add it and see you there.
And Scott, I just want to
Yes, ma'am.
let everybody know, because I do have a conflict. So I will be starting at the activity center to make sure I've got quorum for that board. And then coming over here, probably I'll be about 30 minutes late, just to let everybody know. Okay.
The budget retreat is the next bullet. I do have a couple other items to discuss, but budget retreat, as the mayor mentioned just a few minutes ago, we are looking at May 25th. That is late in May. It is the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, and that is the one issue I just wanted you to be aware of as we schedule that. Staff is happy to be here.
Are you
would
sure
like-
about that?
We're happy to be here.
Thrilled.
James is smiling.
I think that's a smirk.
So if that works with your schedules, please put it down. If not, please let us know. As the mayor mentioned, it is part of a timing issue also with the last item.
Yeah, if it's Memorial Day weekend, council, I think, we could always look at maybe another, like a Tuesday, or I'm sorry, like Thursday evening.
Sure.
So that we can stay clear if that's what folks want, or, or whatever. But generally, we do it on Saturday morning, which is why the 25th made sense, but
Yeah,
I don't think
we're happy
staff
to do it
is-
anytime during the week, evenings, anytime.
But more than likely after the 21st,
Thursday?
because that's the second meeting, council meeting in May.
21st would be the second meeting in May.
Yeah, so it has to be after the 21st. Okay.
Right, so the 23rd would be Thursday. Could we do that at 6:30, 7 PM? Is that something y'all would like to do instead of Memorial Day, Saturday morning,
Either
I
day works for
would
me.
appreciate that.
the Thursday?
I greatly appreciate that.
I think, Jennifer, are you, yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna mention that generally, Thursdays, I think, I was trying to pull up the calendar real quick, but I think that might be a housing authority meeting, so I just need to double check with that, and then we can.
We might could work with them on that. Y'all want to just kind of circle back with staff and get their temperature, kind of let them know our general feeling on it, and then
Sure, I
bring
bet
it back
they'd be
at the
very,
next,
very pleased with Thursday.
just bring it back to the next meeting, and
You bet.
we'll nail it down so that we don't have to try to make a decision right now.
Yes, yes, sir. For that meeting, we, again, want to go over council priorities as it's the initial budget workshop. It's not necessarily go over the line item budget recommendations. That will be late July. But this is an opportunity for council to provide priorities for staff. Budgetary, policy related. We would like to have, maybe questions that we can seed for those priorities and have more of a back and forth in preparation for that meeting. So we want to come absolutely prepared to address what council priorities are for each department. What we see as we've talked at a staff level is this will kind of help create a strategic plan. And then that will be a much easier guiding document as if we could put this into a kind of a strategic planning format prior to that July meeting. But we will come back and make that definitive for that Thursday night. Final couple of items, several items. One is the survey, household survey will be going out soon. We are just finalizing our draft. We're going to get that out to staff for once review, and then we want to get that to council for your review prior to sending it out. Most likely it will go out to you this week, so please take some time to go over those questions. It's going to be about 20 questions long, about the same as last year. We will administer it online primarily, but we will have paper copies available just as we did last year. We want to make a targeted effort, a little more this year, to get it to some of our multifamily properties, maybe assisted living. So, you know, we've learned a lot in the last few years on how to get the word out on these surveys. So that is our goal, to get even more reach with this one. So be watching for that in your inbox. And then
Scott,
yes, yes, sir.
what's the plan for that, for those multi-family units? What is the plan for distributing information?
Really, first and foremost is to contact the property management group for each one of them. And we have more of those contacts now than we have in the past. Let them know that the survey is available. If they want hard copies, we will provide those to the managers and have them distribute them. It's hard for us to gauge how many hard copies versus electronic copies. We found in the past that we don't see a greater response with the hard copies, but we're still happy to provide them in case that it's a barrier. We have made the survey available in the past in English and Spanish also. We will do that again this year, and hope that it gets the broadest reach possible. Okay. A little update, we had the Great Texas River Cleanup on Saturday. I know Councilmember Ellison and Shield were both there, bright and early, freezing cold.
Freezing with Lucy.
It was a very cold morning. Just a couple of statistics, we had about 51 people. I got a text from Kathy just a minute ago. 51, I think, is our official number of volunteers. And they collected over 1 ton of trash for that event. So great event. Cleaned up much of that Waterleaf area, and I hope it's looking better. It was already looking great.
It was, yeah, it was.
Got a lot of trash picked up.
And we had one volunteer from Waterleaf he was a young man, saw us working and then just jumped right in. And when I mean jumped right in, he was in the river and or the creek anyway, but it was colder than cold, and that poor kid. But yeah, he was a trooper, and he was really helpful, and so I'd like to do a shout out to him. But yes.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say I certainly appreciate everyone that came out. We had some folks in the neighborhood that came outside and looked and saw us cleaning up back there, and I that little nod of approval, and I'm certainly sure they appreciated that. I really had a great conversation with Kathy that day about this. We both agreed we would like to see this expanded in future years. I want to give kudos to her, and Tim was out there, and Carrie was out there, and there was a bunch of other staff, Parks and Rec staff, doing some great work. We've got some great crews out there on our staffs, Public Works, Parks and Recs, and other different things. So I certainly appreciate it. I was on the strongman team. I don't know how I ended up on that team, but we put up a lot of T-posts. There was a lot of T-posts in that watershed. So great effort. Love seeing that stuff happen. Love seeing people come out to improve their community.
Yeah.
Thank you all for volunteering.
I think as we expand, the trail system along Plum Creek, we'll be able to expand this project and really work it. And so, yeah. So I look forward to the newer sections of the trail system opening up, because then that will also encourage, more areas and such along Plum Creek. So, yes.
Perfect.
There was also some other cleanup going on at the same time, and I know Sue Ellen Creek with Silverado and Burleson Street, and they did it again this last time around, and they were out there cleaning in the mist and the rain, the same group, and it continues to grow.
We've got great people here.
Very committed people in the Silverado community that come out and do that. It's just great to see, great to be a part of.
Great city. A couple of things just to remind you also, tomorrow night is the county's Kinder Morgan Pipeline meeting at Wallace, at Hayes High School.
Hayes. And it's 6
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, okay.
Thursday night here, we have at 6 o'clock also the downtown stakeholders meeting. So please, council, you are all encouraged to attend that. The next week,
Uh-oh.
just an invitation. Our library is doing movies at the depot, and so they will be presenting a movie across the street. That will be at 2 p.m. and a great event. And speaking of the depot, it's my final item of the evening. Wanted to just recognize Kate Johnson and the great work that she's doing with the Historic Society of Hays County Commission, thank you. They have done a fantastic job. She did reach out to me, and Jerry's been attending those depot meetings. She just wanted to give a quick update, and she has met with the county. So Hays County has agreed to improve the interior of the caboose and the decking, make it more accessible, ADA accessible. They are also paying for the installation and wiring of the antique exterior lights, which is fantastic, and finishing the fencing out there. So they're going to make that a really great project, and they're talking about adding even more improvements in the future. So more to come. A great sign is coming. As part of that, they asked us to pay a little bit of money and help with the erection of a historic monument. And so we have some funds in our beautification fund, and we're going to go ahead and do that for them also. So it's a great kind of win-win for both. That's $1,800, $1,875, and we're just very proud of all the work that they're doing. So
And it's just going to go right there in front of the depot?
It's going to go right out in the flower bed section. Yes.
That's wonderful. Councilor Tenorio.
I volunteer at the train depot, and I encourage everyone to go through the training that they offer and learn about the depot and come out and spend some time out there. It's really neat. You know, I've had an opportunity to meet with Girl Scouts. We've had kids coming from home schools coming out, and we open the depot all the time, not just on the Saturdays. So when groups want to come and tour, we actually will come out and open the depot for them. So come out, learn what it's about, and volunteer, and also it's an opportunity it's such a neat place. Mm-hmm. And it's a nice little asset to have to share.
They've done a great job.
Now, I might add that commission is filled with board members that take their job very seriously and have been just relentless advocates for the restoration of that caboose, and it's pretty inspiring to see how much work they've put into it and how much money they've been able to raise. And so very thankful to have Ms. Johnson and the rest of the commissioners, working to make something great in Kyle. So
We do. We love what they've done here, and they have a broad footprint across the county. It's a great commission that has had an excellent record of stewardship of our history. So we appreciate what they do.
Absolutely.
Scott, did I hear you say a sign is coming?
Yeah, so there's a sign that will be coming, an actual sign for the depot, and they've been working on that for a while at the depot board meetings. And then they've asked us for financial participation for the historic marker or monument, which will be basically the plaque on a post and set in the garden. Jerry, quickly, any updates on when the sign will be installed?
I met with the train depot board, and Howard and Mario are also there to make sure that we understood exactly what the downtown requirements were for the sign that they wanted, and we reached an agreement. So they'll be considering that at their next board meeting. And it's like, well, I've got the mic. Paul's been working with Patricia Randall, Paul Phelan, our library director. So you'll see more programming coming to the train depot through our library programs. And we want to do that to bring more people into the facility, help them find more volunteers, and ultimately keep that building open more so more visitors can visit it as well.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Scott. Executive session, next up.
Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including any or all of the following topics: pending or contemplated litigation, or to seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to Section 551.071, Plum Creek PID.
All right. All right, motion to reconvene. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. There was no action taken during executive session. There will be no action taken now. We did review the developer agreement seeking the advice of the city attorney with regards to Lennar, and we'll have some discussion about that now. Does anybody want to start?
I'll start.
Councilmember Shield.
Okay. I wanted to talk about the signage. I'm concerned when it comes to the signage about making sure that they all fall within what we want to see. So I would like to have the signage proposals, sent to us so that we can approve them prior to them getting, put up and such, installed.
Okay.
I'd like to say that I think that's a wonderful idea, and I also want to assure that that signage is the signage that we will use to continue in through the uptown to keep it all looking about the same.
That's good, yeah. Okay.
I'd like to mark that, we have gone through quite a few deliberations, and we have really had some considerable discussions about this particular development, and I think we're wanting to do something that not only provides the best product for the citizens that are going to be moving in this particular area, but also really something that's going to be, everybody's going to be proud of, right? So some of the small things that really make sense are, one of the things that I viewed was requiring some kind of galvanized metal posts for the residential fences that are capped and that are anchored with concrete, and that they would require some type of language within the HOA bylaws or CCNRs that the HOA would maintain the overall structures and ensure maintenance is performed by the residents as well.
That makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
I have concern with section 3.12H in regards to the soccer fields, all of them being located in the detention area. I don't think that fits with our long-term plan for the soccer fields, to all be located inside the detention area. So I'm going to ask that we create space for 2 fields outside the detention pond, and that we increase the PID funding to up to $600,000 for the development of those fields.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea, and I hope, I really think that this is going to be a big draw for not just the neighborhood children, but the tournaments, and I think it's going to be a great economic incentive for the new businesses that we're hoping are going to come down to that area. So I think that that's a great idea.
Was that going to be something that was a little more natural products, or we're going to go with an all-weather plan? Because I think we need to consider the idea that if we are going to have a tournament in that particular area, that if there is weather that would prevent or that would shut down at least partial of the tournament, that we at least have those two fields to be able to continue that tournament to some degree and still have and maintain some draw to the area.
That's definitely with that in mind. That's why I'm asking for the increase in the PID funding so that they can be all-weather fields.
And the $600,000 number, where are you getting that number?
I'm getting that number, basically just the cost of one field, I think is well over $1 million. And we were looking for 2 fields, so roughly looking to cover at least one field or half the cost of a field.
Okay. I heartily concur. I hope that the developers understand that the soccer field and that complex is certainly an amenity that we see as integral in the long-term vision of the entire area.
Yes.
We see it as a major draw, and when we talk about PID funding, we recognize as a council that a PID is an incentive. That incentive is designed to increase the quality of life for the residents that live within the boundaries of that Lennar area. We do recognize that there would be additional benefits that would convey to maybe the surrounding community in terms of creating a draw, which is why we're not asking for Lennar to pay for the entirety of it, but just a portion that would be equal to what their residents might receive in benefits. But the vision that we have for those soccer fields goes far beyond just Lennar, and so it's extremely important to us as a council that comes to fruition, and that it's prioritized by both Lennar and Uptown.
Yes.
So, anyone else?
Yeah, and I think that having them outside of the detention pond will help. First of all, since they're higher dollar, to keep them, the maintenance of them, and just to keep them better operational will be a good draw.
Councilor Ellison?
No, I completely agree. I think y'all have all hit it on the head as far as the attraction and purpose of these soccer fields. I just want to say, generally speaking, when we consider a PID for a development, there is an expected certain higher level of quality in what you're bringing to the table. But I will say as well, I'm going to say from our last presentation, I don't like I kind of felt like either give us the PID or you get kind of him-haw. I want to state on the record that when you're coming to Kyle to develop, you should have pride in whatever product you bring here.
Absolutely.
And it should not be, okay, give us this incentive or you get our bottom barrel stuff. And I know there's no developers here right now, but that's personally how I felt. And if I was an emotional voter, honestly, I'd vote against that based on that presentation. I'm just going to say that on my own. I did have, not to change subjects, but I did have something, since I have the mic, that kind of stuck out to me, stucco. On P, under 3.12, I believe it was. It talks about the collector street right-of-ways, which are shown in the exhibit in the document in D2 and D3, shall include masonry walls in lieu of standard wood fencing. And the document currently states masonry shall mean stucco, brick, or stone. I propose that we take stucco out of there and only have brick or stone.
Sounds good, especially when you're looking at the price point that they're suggesting. I completely agree that the stucco really should be removed. I think that's a great call.
What about decorative stucco? Could they maybe at least come to us for a waiver if it's, done decoratively and such?
I think it'd be the case that if they had a plan, they certainly
They could
Any
bring it.
amendment to the developer agreement, they're
Okay.
welcome to propose to us.
Okay.
But, you know, we're establishing what our minimum standards would be. If they want to deviate from that, they'll have to ask permission, so. Okay, so I think I've heard 4. Does anyone else have any additional comments? I have one. And I'll summarize the 4 that I think I heard. I heard no stucco on the collectors, so we're gonna strike the word stucco. I heard, Tracy, what was yours?
Signage, yeah,
That
they
the
bring
city council will
signage.
have the ability to approve, have final say on the signage. I heard that the fences, the interior fences, will need to have galvanized metal studs, and those studs need to be capped and anchored in concrete, and that the HOA, there needs to be a provision in the developer agreement that the HOA will enforce compliance with maintaining the fence.
That's for wood fencing?
For the wood, if the fencing is wood, correct. Anything else is gonna be anchored in concrete. I said galvanized, correct? Did I put that in there? Okay. And then I heard that our soccer field component is gonna be beefed up to include enough space for 2 additional fields. And the amount of the PID contribution will be increased from 180,000 to 600,000.
Correct, outside of the detention area.
Outside of the detention area.
Right.
Okay. Mine was small. I spoke at the last meeting with regard to increasing the longevity of the roofs from 20 years to 30 years. The proposal back from the developer is 25. I'm going to state that I'm willing to accept 25 so long as that roof is articulated, architecturally articulated, and not a flat roof. And Mr. Earp can work with Mr. Mayor on exactly what that language would
Just to
look like.
clarify, you don't mean that the roof isn't flat, you mean the shingle itself isn't flat. You want the 3D shingles, the ones that are architectural shingles.
Architecturally articulated.
Yes,
shingles,
yes, sir.
Yeah, I struggle to use the language of roofing, apparently. So, anyone else have any additional thoughts or
I do have a
comments on
thought.
it? Councilmember
And I would
Tenorio.
like to make a comment. You know, the proposed project does have a price point of a few homes that will probably, or they're hoping to garner over $700,000. I will agree with Councilmember Ellison. I was very disappointed when that presentation was made. I also felt that it kind of held us over a barrel. It was kind of like, we're going to do it this way or you're going to get this. And to me, that's just a bad way to do business, especially when you're trying to sell that high level quality. And in order to get high dollar for this product, you have to be willing to invest in that community. And I think that, speaking just for myself, I applaud the council for working on this to assure that that community has what a community at that level needs to have to be successful. And I look forward to seeing, or look forward to hearing back from the developer, because I think that this is something that we can agree on. And, but I want to say, I'm really happy with the suggestions. I want to thank Mr. Earp for all the work he's done to get it to this point. And I mean, I know he's been 2 years working on this, and I'm glad to see that we may be close to the end of the rabbit tunnel. So, that's all.
Okay. I agree with what you said, Councilmember Tenorio. It's important for Mr. Mayor and Lennar, I think, to understand that this is where we're drawing the line in the sand. We're not looking to retrade after this, assuming the items that we've brought forward and said is our expectation to be amended in the document are done so, that the high probability is that we will bring it forward for a favorable vote at the next city council meeting. So with that said, I'd like to make a motion to give staff and to direct the city manager to enter into negotiations, final negotiations with Lennar and Mr. Mayor to incorporate the 5 items that we have discussed here.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned by the mayor, it's been seconded by Councilmember Tenorio. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Tenorio.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries.